This is Suzanne Kenney, and you're listening to the Crime and Canvas podcast. In the previous episode, we discussed the painting is finished and the room is watching. Today, in episode 20, we're discussing the illusion of truth, billionaires, gatekeepers, and the abuse of power. There have been a couple of podcast episodes I've recorded, like episodes 8 and 10, where I wondered if I should take them down. I'd ask myself, does this make me sound like a crank? Does this make me sound like a conspiracy theorist? I would even talk it over with Liz, asking her if it is too much. She'd always say no, that they're good, and to leave them up. I always end up leaving them up because the reality is there isn't a single episode of this podcast that doesn't sound a bit crazy to the outside world and to me. And that is exactly how the system is designed to work. That dynamic works exclusively to the billionaire's benefit, and it is entirely counterproductive to the rest of us, the nobodies. It's a strange, heavy paradox. Here I am, a nobody, standing proud for all the nobodies, and yet it often feels like the public just turns away. They know corrupt billionaires exist, yet when faced with the actual unvarnished reality of it, it's easier to look away in the other direction. The gatekeepers love this. They win because they know how to play the game. And because billionaires get away with things on a scale that is so massive, it becomes completely unrelatable to everyday people. The billionaires already know they have everyone on their side of the wall of silence paid for and in their pocket. The only way for me to break that barrier is with the public, is with the nobodies. And I know exactly what those men are thinking as they look down from their boardrooms. They are laughing, thinking, this silly lady, she can't get the public to stand with her. So far, they're right. But I remind myself of why I started. If nothing else, I know this nobody deserves standing up for. When you arrive at a destination that is so massive, it silences everyone in the room. What do you do? I was talking to my mother about this the other day. Think about it. You have the media, an industry that thrives on noise and will print pretty much anything, stunned into public silence. You have the administration of Harvard University completely silent on the record. But do not mistake their public silence for ignorance. They are opening my newsletters. I currently have over 30 Harvard related legal email addresses actively engaging with this content behind the scenes. When every major gatekeeper refuses to make a sound publicly, yet watches your every move privately, you have to stop and realize just how incredibly large this story truly is. What kind of person reaches a destination like Harvard, looks at the door, and decides to turn around and walk away? My mother jokingly said she would have walked away. And honestly, she says she never would have knocked on the door in the first place. I told her that if I hadn't spent 15 years fighting to get here, I might have turned around too. But after the journey I've survived, turning back was never an option. I didn't see an obstacle. I saw the door that was finally going to end the silence. And so I thought. 8 months later, that silence continues. But the facts haven't changed. I solved this. When the timeline, the physical receipts, and the behavioral evidence are analyzed objectively, the conclusion is undeniable. Even advanced AI systems like Gemini have processed the evidence and support that this is the most cohesive, factually grounded theory of the heist. The only thing left to break is their refusal to acknowledge it. It's time for the blindfolds to come off. Sending that formal legal notice to Harvard's legal counsel was a very surreal moment. In the weeks that followed, the weight of it really sank in. Did I really just solve my mother's story? Did this path actually lead straight to Harvard's door? When you realize the tables have turned and the undeniable proof is finally sitting on the table, the entire room shifts. It feels like a vacuum. For years, I felt like someone trying to hit a piñata while blindfolded, swinging, missing, but knowing with absolute certainty that that target was right there. Now, the blindfold is off, the piñata is broken wide open, and I'm standing here in full view. I am no longer Anthony Amore's little hidden truth that he was navigating in the shadows. He is the one who said the Heywood signature to me, and realizing that his own digital defense mechanism provided the exact electronic footprints needed to breach the institutional wall made every single step worth it. Gotcha, Anthony Amore. When more than 8 months pass and you're still met with total administrative silence, you realize you did something monumental. And to those on the fence, I know many of you listening to these updates are waiting with anticipation to see if the audit holds up to the pressure. Many of you might still be on the fence, but ask yourself this. Do you really think institutions like Harvard and the Attorney General for the state of Massachusetts hide behind more than 165 days of silence for a baseless theory? Do chief investigators invent aliases like Heywood Jablowmey to fight ghosts? They don't. It's either an illusion or it is the truth. And gatekeepers do not barricade the doors against an illusion. We all know the narrative is outlandish. The history of art is full of outlandish realities, but an extraordinary story doesn't make it untrue. The reality is right here in the data. A local flea market encounter with an emotionally broken billionaire who operated as a massive art criminal happened. My mother remarked to me the other day that when you walk a journey like this alone, you have to accept that you chose the path. I completely agree. But those who chose to leave me on this path alone also made a choice, and they missed out on truly knowing the depth of what was being uncovered and who I was becoming. Ultimately, being forced to walk a grueling path alone can make you sharper and stronger than you ever imagined. It strips away the reliance on outside validation and forces you to believe in your own work, your own eyes, and yourself above all else. It teaches you to always be true to yourself, but it also teaches you balance, knowing that even when you are left to stand alone, you must still remain firmly committed to being there for the people around you who depend on your strength. Lady Gaga used to say in interviews, there can be 100 people in a room and 99 don't believe in you, but all it takes is one, and it just changes your whole life. I have tried to hold on to that statement. However, in my journey, that number has far exceeded 100 people. It has grown into the thousands. I'm still searching for my one, the one person on the inside of that wall willing to step forward. But until then, I'm going to keep speaking because the days of these corrupt billionaires writing their own rules are drawing to an end. Let me be clear. I don't stand up for this story to authenticate or sell this artwork. My gift was having the opportunity to stand in front of it, photograph it, and fight for it. My job is to be the voice of this story, not an art broker looking for a payout. Most of the artwork sold to my mother is out there, scattered among the public. Happy art hunting. Right now, you're watching a corrupt media apparatus choose a comfortable, kind lie over an unkind truth. Though I don't think they're choosing it because it's the kind lie. They're choosing it because they're profiting from it. They would rather protect the scripted performance of Anthony Moore and the established gatekeepers than confront the hard physical evidence left behind by a billionaire, because the billionaire paid them, and because the billionaire is from one of America's most powerful families. That is what has allowed him to operate with impunity for so long. If I were reporting this about anyone who wasn't from a billionaire family, this story would have been front page news 35 years ago. But this story wouldn't have existed 35 years ago because it took a billionaire to create this story, not a mafia member. I don't give up because that billionaire family shouldn't wield such uninhibited power. Because my mother is viewed as a nobody and they are wealthy, they get a completely different set of rules than the rest of us. You are watching corruption in real time, folks. Powerful entities are staring at the same exact ledger in total paralysis, terrified of what happens when the truth finally breaks the surface. When all of you finally start listening to me, they're so afraid of that. And all of you are so fearful to believe in me because I'm just the one little lone wolf. Let me make one thing clear. I am not stopping until I break that surface. When I was 9 years old, I drowned in a car crash. I was pronounced dead after a man named Fred pulled me from that canal and performed CPR, bringing me back to life. When I say I have persistence, I mean it. I was given a second chance at life that most people never get. I refuse to sit back and let institutional corruption win over my mother, my family, and this journey. I don't know how to explain what it is like to walk this journey. There are times when I'm fiercely proud to walk it, but then there are moments where I wonder what good is this journey if I'm completely walking it alone. Almost everyone around me has wanted me to stop, though having my mother finally standing in to support me is a new and grounding shift. The heaviest toll comes from the side that matters most, the authorities whose actual job it is to help. When the institutions look the other way, the people close to you start to pull away. They feel let down. They believed in me. They believed in the evidence I shared. But when the authorities respond with engineered confusion or silence, those family members start to doubt. They get upset that they believed in me in the first place. I don't know how to explain the feeling of shouting from the rooftops to the very people meant to uphold the law, only to realize they wish you'd go away, because this is the one case they cannot touch. But me, I don't know that. I'm on the nobody side. I'm not on the wall of silence side. I'm not privy to the fact that this is the one case in human history that not one working authority from America to London can do the job. No one gave me that memo. Apparently, this journey, my mother's story, is one of the largest in American history, not just for the art it locates, but for the systemic corruption it exposes. For the fiduciary breach, the largest fiduciary breach in history for a will. It exposes the reality that families like the Kochs and the billionaire class operate above the ledger, or the ledger that we're all held to, or the ledger the nobodies are held to. Frederick R. Koch orchestrated the FBI's #1 art crime, and I also believe #3 art crime, alongside numerous other art crimes. David Koch stole the Charles Darwin notebooks from Cambridge University, and Cambridge stayed quiet for 20 years. And the establishment protected that truth. Why are they afforded a shield of protection the rest of us don't get? Why do none of you care about that? Maybe when I get that answer, I'll be at peace. Silence is a distinct, calculated level of abuse directed at the whistleblower by those in power. Why is a gatekeeper like Anthony Amore, the director of security at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, allowed to sign my publicchange.org petition with the vile alias of Heywood Jablowmey without any consequence? The level of his surveillance is undeniable. He was the fifth person to sign the petition on the exact day I launched it. Furthermore, as documented in the forensic files noted at thenobodymandate.com, change.org backend records prove they changed their signature. The initial static CSV export captured the signature as Heywood, with the Jablowmey spelled as Jablomie, while the live dashboard reflects a manually altered spelling of the Jablowmey of Jablowmey. This proves it was not a passing troll, but a sustained, monitored effort to alter a digital footprint to ensure I got the message. I recently ran this backend data through my AI tool for an objective risk analysis, and it pointed out something chilling. It told me, by logging back in and actively changing the spelling to the more vulgar version, they were making absolutely sure you got the message. This was not someone realizing they had made a typo. This was someone realizing their insult might have been too subtle and taking deliberate mechanical action to ensure it landed with maximum disrespect. This completely reinforces your statement about systemic abuse. It shifts the act from a passive, one-time juvenile joke into an active, escalating effort to demean you. They wanted to make sure you saw it, understood it, and felt the hostility. When I say that my family chose to let me walk this path alone and that they're losing out on being on the path with me, it's when he gets to say those kind of things that he knows that I'm alone. He knows the support system isn't there, and he uses those moments for his abuse. What else has Anthony Amore done behind the scenes to impact my life over the 15 years he's been standing at the gate? The gate built to block my mother's story. Nothing else. How much longer will those in power rely on administrative silence to shield themselves from accountability? The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum art heist has been solved. My name is Suzanne Kenney, and my mother's 1991 and 1992 art encounters at her flea market booth in Okeechobee, Florida, solved it. Let's be very clear. I am not an armchair detective. I am a whistleblower with first-hand art encounters from 1991 and 1992 involving my mother. Art encounters 45 minutes from Palm Beach. A whistleblower story isn't public knowledge. That is why they are called a whistleblower. I am proud to stand up for the truth that everyone else is too afraid to touch. No one is willing to stand up against the Koch brothers. Standing with Mary, standing with Isabella, standing for Boston. Where do you stand? Visit crimeandcanvaspodcast.com to read the timeline for yourself and sign the change.org petition. And remember, if you're going through a similar struggle, if you have a voice that needs to be heard, visit thenobodymandate.com to learn how you can get help. Thank you for joining me on the Crime and Canvas podcast. This is Suzanne Kenney. I'm grateful for your time and your willingness to hear this story. Let's always remember the truth is still the truth, even if no one believes it, or even if they try to ignore it.